The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show and the start of our third year here. Of course, and some October stuff, horror going on. Today features a discussion of the 2009 Ty West film, The House of the Devil. And here to help kick off year 3 and the spooky month, and returning the show, one of our favorites, Jamie Alvey.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome back, and welcome to you. Help kick off year 2 as well, I believe. I'm just now remembering that I had a group of people, but now it's just you this year. There's a group of people. We had a week-long favorites of Brandon's thing, and you were there.
And we always stick with our low budget theme.
Yes, we can't go over a certain amount of money to talk about with movies. So I came up with that. I'm like, why have I? Well, granted, a lot of my show has been like what other people like, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can talk about what I want, and this is a very favorite of mine. We'll get into with The House of the Devil, and it fits the Jamie and I mandate of low budget, lots of talent. And so how have you been, Jamie? What have you been up to?
I have been, just writing a lot, teaching a lot, revising stuff, or reading some stuff that's either really good or really bad. You know what being a teacher is like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's it's just a lot of irons in the fire, but it's been going pretty well, actually. I was laughing because I thought it was really funny that you picked The House of the Devil, because I have been watching like a lot of like Larry Fessenden's 90s stuff.
And he produced this too. Yeah.
Yes, because I was like, oh yeah, he produced that. I literally turned in a piece last night about his first feature film.
Oh, okay.
From 91, and I was like, the irony.
That is funny.
Like, okay, this worked out.
Yeah, just wavelength right there.
Yeah.
And you entered the Face of Horror contest that was going around, right?
I did. I think I'm still in the running.
I voted for you every time I see it pop. I'm like, oh, I click in and I go and vote. So I guess you're my person for it. So that's who I'm voting for.
Checked it and she said, you're 4th right now. And I was,
all right, 4th.
I was like, I have no expectations. I'm just.
It's top 5. That's top 5. So not bad. So yeah, that's a cool thing. I hope you continue to be there in the running. So
thank you.
And thanks for always for coming back. How many times is this? Is this number
4?
4? We had okay, so we had Flanagan when we did Sound of My Voice.
Yes.
Jessica. 4. All right. 4 and 4th in the Face of the Horror thing. So look at that. So listeners here, what happened in September to the Brandon Peters Show? All you gave me was another show's commentary tracks and Old Space Show. But thanks for listening if you did. So in September, I went on a vacation for a week. I'm allowed to take those. I went out of town. I went to the northwest of the United States and did that for a week. And when I came back, I had COVID. COVID's not fun. I had COVID really bad. So all I could do, I had those backed up. I didn't release the commentaries like I normally do over the summer. So I used them as regular episodes while I was planning on taking a break, but not as long as one. as I did. I had COVID pretty bad. You can hear it in my voice on a couple old Space Show episodes because I sucked it up and did a couple with Steven. And he said I was fine on them. And then on Twitter, old Valencia there noted that I sounded like I had a cold or something, but it was COVID. But luckily, my family, were doing all right. I'm still having, I thought I was fine. And then I went to mow my lawn and I had to do it in 2 separate days because I got pretty winded doing it. So still somewhere in my body. But yeah, so that's where we're at. But we're back. We're going here. I guess I'm going pretty hard coming back with October because we got these. Scott Mendelson and I have begun recording the Tim Burton's Big Retrospective series, which is set to drop in November in 7 parts, going through his career, starting with some super obscure stuff and then leading up to through Wednesday on Netflix, the Tim Burton one. You guys liked Scott and I doing Summer of 82 at 40, so we're back with another series because Summer of 93 at 30, which will be the next Summer of series, is gonna happen in the summer. We're not gonna do that in the fall.
That's when I was born in 93.
Oh
so.
wow, okay, excellent. So this is for you, Jamie. I was a 40 at 40, 82 at 40 for me, 93 at 30 for y'all over there. Also, the Out Now with Aaron and Abe horror specials run this month. I believe one dropped last Friday. As always, I'm part of that team. We're doing different topics. I believe the one that went last Friday that should have dropped is the Horror Heroes squad that we put together. Myself, Abe, Aaron, and Jason Coleman pick a team of 5 horror heroes to be our squad going through everything. I did mine very X-Men focused. Like I needed a Professor Xavier, a Cyclops, and I was really happy with my team. Also some good picks from the other guys. The next one is our monster squad. So we are taking the classic monsters in our favorite iteration of each, like, so our favorite Dracula, our favorite Frankenstein's monster, that one's they're also doing, I won't be on it, there's a Shining discussion with a professor that they usually do once a year. They're doing the Shining. I'll be back. We're doing top 5 horror movie posters of all time, and we're talking like art posters, not crappy people on the internet that post stuff. And then the final week is a commentary for the original Nosferatu, which turns 100 this year.
Like it doesn't feel like that should be 100, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's always been there, but it either feels old or it doesn't, like depending on the day.
Yeah, it's old but still effective. I love it. I love that about it. But yeah, so those are an Out Now with Aaron and Abe. I'm not airing them over here. You'll have to go over there, and they are worth a listen. Also, go back to the archive of the horror episodes. Those are some of the podcasts I've been most proud to have been a part of over the years because there's some great discussions. James Oster of from here and also JoeBlow.com is a part of that team as well. He'll be joining us. He wasn't able to do the horror heroes. He submitted a list. But he'll be a part of the rest of the specials going on. So all that's going on. I'm running myself ragged, but I'm excited, Jamie, to talk today about the House of the Devil.
I can tell you like it.
I love it. It's perfect. About the deposit?
I'll agree to waive all the deposit stuff. You just give me the first month's down, we'll call it a day, all right? It's hard coming up with all that money, isn't it?
It's gonna work out. You're not the one with $84 in her bank account and a check to write on Monday.
You know what you should do?
Hi. I'm calling in regards to the babysitter flyer posted outside my dorm.
Tonight's big eclipse is now well underway.
I feel a little weird just dropping you out here, like in the middle of wherever we are.
You have to forgive me, Samantha, because I've not been completely honest.
We're from the desert, you know.
You see, we actually don't have a child.
They lied to you. I know. Okay, I know you're right. But it's $400. This equals first month's rent and then some, and all I have to do is sit inside and watch TV. This is huge. This one night changes everything for me.
go. Are you not the babysitter? Oh my God! Talk to me, Lord. Talk to me.
Yes.
Which directed by Ty West, written by Ty West, also edited by Ty West. He tends to edit his own, but he edits Pearl X. Like, yeah, I like that about him.
Which is exactly like what which is even funnier because we did Absentia, which is what Flanagan does too.
Yeah. I get that. Our cast is Jocelyn Donahue, Tom Noonan, Mary Warnov, Greta Gerwig, AJ Bowen, and Dee Wallace. If you listen closely, Lena Dunham plays the 911 operator on the other end of the phone.
Oh, I didn't think I ever caught that.
Yeah, I looked at that was in my research. I was like, oh, well, it makes sense. There's a group of people around. This is Ty West's sophomore film, which is a follow-up to The Roost, which also starred Tom Noonan. What are your thoughts on Ty West, Jamie?
You know, he's one of those that for me is either really hit or miss. I haven't seen X or Pearl yet because I'm eternally behind on everything.
Okay.
Because I like The House of the Devil. And I'll probably have to revisit The Innkeepers again, but I don't remember like that actually meshing for me.
Okay.
But it's been years.
Gotcha.
So, but I have seen House of the Devil quite a few times actually.
So House of the Devil, I saw this movie and I'm like, I need to know everything about this guy. Like I loved this movie when I first saw it, and I went back and I found The Roost, and he did this other one that was super low budget. I think after this, it was like a Hitmen in the Woods after each other type movie, Most Dangerous Game type of movie. I've just followed this guy through his career because he's got a real nice touch on things. Technically speaking, he made a great found footage movie, The Sacrament, which I liked a lot. Did you see that one?
I have seen that one. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like there's several that I'm not remembering right off the top of my head.
Right. I still have not seen his Western that he did in the Valley of Violence with John Travolta. I haven't seen that one. I have seen some various TV episodes he's done. Of course, X and Pearl and VHS when he did a segment in there. Trigger Man, that was his. It was the film he did before this one, so it came after The Roost. Sorry, I was wrong. His third film following Trigger Man, not The Roost. I saw that one. I've seen ABCs of Death. Innkeepers, I really like. Innkeepers is kind of like, it's got a lot of the same frills as this movie, but with a little supernatural ghost touch to it, and modern. So the best thing about the Innkeepers is the interplay between Pat Healy and what's her name? Sarah Paxton. Yeah. They have a good rapport with it. Ty West, he gets thrown in with the mumblecore people.
Yes.
I don't think his movies don't really have, I mean, he works with these people. These people get interchanged in movies, but I don't think his movies fit that. I feel they feel scripted to me. They don't feel.
I don't think they have that aesthetic. I feel like they have more of like a very 70s.
Yeah.
Especially with A House of the Devil is very like throwback satanic panic film. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the Mumblecore crew if you're wondering what that is, it's Joe Swanberg, Adam Wingard, Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach, Lynn Shelton, the Duplass brothers, Andrew Buchkowski, and Ree Russo Young are some of the examples. But these are films that are they've been like dramas, dramedies, horror kind of, but they're like movies where a lot of the dialogue, I guess is like improv-ish to a degree. And I don't feel like Ty West films, they feel scripted. They don't feel like blah, blah, blah. But Swanberg is the most mumblecore. Swanberg and Gerwig's early stuff are the most mumblecore of it. And maybe the Duplass brothers. But like that's what they called it, mumblecore or something.
Like, do they count Creep as mumblecore?
I don't know. There's some other Duplass, like the well, he's in it. He didn't direct it, but like Drinking Buddies was a mumblecore movie. But yeah, that's just kind of what they called like indie film. A lot of these indie films in this group for a while, the mumblecore. Yeah,
I've seen Amy Simons thrown in.
Oh yeah. She definitely is with this crew.
Yeah.
She's in The Sacrament that Ty West does, and of course they all get together for Your Next.
And she's fantastic. But
Oh, Simet's fun story. Like I almost had her on my old show called Cinema Cavalcade for a bit, but she had to reshoot Pet Cemetery scenes when we were supposed to record, so I couldn't do it. She couldn't do it and never came. I never brought her back. But
you've got to get Amy Simons. You've got to get Amy Simons.
A little too important. But I had to convince her. I had to do a lot of convincing of her freaking manager or PR person, because they're like, I don't know how. I'm like, how she would fit this. I'm like, no, I'm a big fan of hers. She's done a lot of these cool modern horror movies, and my show was like, I think a good thing would be I always think it's great to hear creators talk about other people's work. I always think that's fantastic. I always like hearing that. I always talk about how one of my inspirations for this show was Rian Johnson's commentary for Star Wars: The Last Jedi, because he talks a lot about his influences and the films that influenced him making that. And I'm like, I could just listen to this guy talk about these movies and how he applies stuff to his films and all that stuff. And that's why I always like creators, writers, stuff like that, seeing this aspect, especially like critics and stuff, where they get a bad rap nowadays because people think they don't like movies. And it's like, no, these critics like movies more than anybody. Like, they write about them for a living stuff. So yeah, just an interesting aspect. But yeah, so Simons took and I got her, and then it's like, oh, she's got to go back for 2 weeks to wherever and shoot Pet Cemetery scenes. So
you have a story about everybody I bring up, even in like the most weird tangential way, and I love it because I at least like once a month now think about the Lee Winnell story.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's one of my favorite. That's one of my classics. Oh my
gosh, I think about that a lot.
Yeah. And Dead Silence did come through my mind about doing for this episode for a second. I was like, oh wait, that would full circle it at some point, but I went with House of the Devil. So Ty West, he's with those guys. He's never actually he's doing quite well with X and Pearl right now, critical acclaim wise, making some A24 movies for super low budget that people are like, oh, Pearl only made $6 million opening weekend. Yeah, it cost 1.5 million. It's
6 times its budget, dude.
Its advertising was a trailer at the end of the last movie, and then they didn't really do much after that.
Yeah, like it's doing amazing compared to for like no mark.
And he's got the best PR possible with Martin Scorsese, like singing praises over the moon about it and saying he couldn't sleep after seeing it. Like, come on, you don't get better than that. Like, I'm sorry. So yeah, he's on a hot streak right now with his little trilogy, which completes with Maxine. I believe is in February of next year. I can't remember, but it's crazy. The secret trilogy came out of nowhere. Yeah, nowhere. But his big breakout is this movie, The House of the Devil. It got him some acclaim. And I gotta stress to people, if you can find this movie for free, plenty of places on streamers, which I always recommend. Tubi is awesome. It's got good stuff. It's got trash. It's got lots of TV shows. I think Tubi's great. And it's free.
Lots of old stuff. Lots of like
old stuff.
Horror. And then Emily's over here whispering sharks.
Yep. You can see whatever you want there. I always Tubi, Canopy, best combo, and they're free. So this movie, people, this is from 2009, folks. And this predate, I want to note to listen, this predates Stranger Things by 7 years. Okay. Ty West was ahead of a whole lot of stuff, way ahead. And I was just floored the first time I saw this movie, just because nobody was doing this. There was a period that had just kind of ended where people were doing like grindhouse movies where they try to make an exploitation thing and they click a filter to put over that look like runny film, all that stuff. But he's got an accent. He nails it. Absolutely nails it. Like, if you, to a degree where if you showed a young kid this movie, they might actually think it's actually from like 1983. And that's because Ty West the film never breaks character. It never winks. It's never in on the joke. He flat out made a lost 80s horror movie. He shot it on 16 millimeter, all practical effects, no post-production trickery here, like one of those grindhouse ones I mentioned. And he leaves no tells. And he just aced it. Like, so this is like, it plays like an age, like it's paced like one, it's shot like one. He uses zooms instead of dolly shots for things, and it doesn't wink. It doesn't do like, and a couple years later we'd have that movie that won Best Picture, The Artist, where they made a silent film, but that movie can't help itself. It winks. It has a musical little number, and at the end he speaks. Ty West don't do that. He wants his movie to be complete. He wants to put it amongst all these movies and people like not realize it's not an 80s movie. And I love that. And now we've gotten so much of this stuff, and like, it's obviously over 80s with a lot of things. Like, everybody's got the coolest posters of things that nobody had back then. They've got, I know you're a 93 baby, but there's a lot of,
I know plenty about the 80s because of my parents. They graduated high school in 82.
Okay. The year I was born. Okay.
So yeah, so like I grew up and got a lot of that stuff by osmosis, a lot of stuff from the 70s and the 80s.
Gotcha. What effect did this have on you? Like, when was the first time you saw this one, and what kind of effect did it have on you seeing it?
I think I first watched this when I was in grad school. So that's been like 4 or 5 years ago now.
Okay.
And I watched it with my mother. Because if anybody knows anything about my mother, she is a huge horror fan. So we watched this, and I was just sitting here and I was like, this is one of those situations where you can tell this is going against this girl's self-preservation, but she needs that money so badly that she's willing to look past that. Yeah. And it's just one of those kind of situations that as a woman, it terrifies me.
Right.
Yeah, because people are sketchy.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things, because I was like, you just get this like awful feeling that something bad is going to happen, and then it's boom.
Right. Well, and yeah, it's also playing off like, what if the false fears of that entire decade were real, and like, what if it was real? And I dig that, because I'm a big enthusiast on the era of satanic panic. And Troy Brownfield and I have a regular series on this show called Products of the Panic, that dive into the things of that era. And this is what people thought was like your neighbor. They might be worshiping the devil and sacrificing shit. They weren't.
And honestly, this movie is kind of weirdly prescient, because it seems like we're heading into the second era of satanic panic.
QAnon is the second coming of the satanic panic. So,
yeah, and it's like we're hearing all of this, and I'm like, and I was like, I didn't have that on my lifetime bingo card. Live through second satanic panic.
Right.
here we are. And I was like, are they really going to think that people are like doing rituals like this in their basements and stuff? Do they think those?
They thought they were doing it in the basement of a McMartin school that went to trials. People got arrested, held in jail, and there was no basement there. No basement.
Yeah, because I read a little bit about that and I was like, this is bizarre. You can't make a basement where there's not
it's like what that Pizzagate, what they called it, where that guy is like, there's nothing there. Like your fantasy is far more exciting than the sad truth of our reality.
Yeah, it's just, oh my God.
Yeah. And so this cashes in on that, which is, it's perfect. It's fun. And
I mean, at this point, I think I'd rather live through the first Satanic Panic than this one. At this point.
Yeah, I love there are warning signs to Jocelyn Donahue's character. Her name in the film is Samantha, but she's oblivious to it because it's on the news. She doesn't care about the news. There's like the lunar eclipse, there's clues and stuff. She finds clues that scare her, but they aren't telling her exactly why, but everything around her is telling her exactly why.
Because we piece it together before she really pieces it together.
Right.
We're just kind of like, oh, look at all these little. Ty West said, here's some context clues, everybody use them. You're going to figure it out way before she did. And I think that's part of just the terror that builds, because you, by the end point, you know everything. And she's still just kind of
right.
No idea. And you're just like, oh my God.
Well, and we know, so that people know the type. So in addition to being an 80s throwback horror film with haunted house and slasher elements to it, the type of movie it is a and I'm probably gonna get flagged for this when I edit it, but I'm gonna let Casey Musgraves tell us what kind of horror movie it is. But yeah, so it's paced, it's very I hate to like throw out Hitchcockian, but he has got it down in a way that Carpenter got it down back around the era he's trying to evoke. I don't think he's trying to mock Carpenter. He's just pulling from Hitchcock and learning of the best. Ebert even said Ty West had channeled Hitchcock here in the most effective way, because it's very suspense. And I know there's some horror fans that would just hate to sit through this, but I'm amused every time watching her wander through this house. Not because you don't know every room of this house. He makes the geography clear through the eyes of Jocelyn Donahue, but you have to discover that stuff with her in the house. We get clues from radio, we get clues from other things, but we only follow her through the house, and we get to see what Greta Gerwig thinks of the house for like 2 seconds. But she's long story short, the movie is about her getting paid an obscene amount of money to watch an old woman or babysit an old woman in a house. And turns out they're Satanists wanting to have her impregnated with the son of Satan or something like that. But there's no sex or anything like that. It's a ritualistic pregnancy or something. I don't know. But it's it's very like, there's no like jump scares. Did you notice he like a lot of time, it may have just been the limitations or of his low budget or what, he shot her from above looking down a lot. I noticed a lot of, there's like obvious stairways, but there's walking through town, there's just random stuff in the house and like down on an angle looking at her. It was a real interesting choice. Except in the car, he looked up at them, which was mentioned. I watched with commentary with Jocelyn and not Adam Wingard, Ty West. And they mentioned that the car scene between her and Gerwig, when Greta Gerwig's going to drop her off at the house, like, it looked, you got a lot of comments that looked very, very David Lynch like with like it wasn't trying hard to be David Lynch, it was David Lynch like he captured. He's like, I was not going for that at all, but I can see he's like, I can see it, and that's very cool, but like it looked like a David Lynch scene. And I was like, yeah, it kind of looks like it could be a scene from like Mulholland Drive or something. But
you just gotta love a Lynchian accident.
yep, a Lynchian accident. I like that. A Lynchian accident.
Lynchian accident, yeah.
But yeah, so Jocelyn Dahl, let's talk about her for a sec. She's perfection here, just from a visual aesthetic point of view in casting. She has that Karen Allen, Margot Kidder look that was like an it girl thing around the late 70s, early 80s. That kind of like later on you get your Lori Petty's, Courtney Cox that look like that, but those two were like the OGs of this look, and that kind of helps sell the 83 vibe just from her. And she is someone that I just think is criminally underused. Criminally, because she's absolutely to die for, gorgeous, but she is a tremendous performer. And I get excited when I see her in things like, Insidious 2, Dr. Sleep, commercial, like a car commercial that ran for a while. But
that's how I am. You'll just see sitting there and you're just like, hey, that's
yeah, I saw her like there's a car commercial for a while, and I kept saying, I'm like, why is she so familiar? And I'm like, wait, oh, that's Jocelyn. Like, what are you doing in a car commercial? You're better than this. And it wasn't like, hi, I'm Jocelyn Donahue in a car commercial. She was just the person in the car commercial. I'm like, you're a star in my eyes, lady.
Like seeing Kate Siegel was like in a psoriasis commercial.
Yeah, like
the same phenomenon. I'm like, y'all,
ma'am, you are royalty. Get out of this commercial. Yeah.
It's like, no.
The commercial's probably paying them more than the films are in. So yeah.
That's the thing. I love when people are like, well, you're an actor, you're privileged. And it's like, honey, this is low budget horror. What the hell do you think I'm doing?
Right. Just because you know who I am and you saw what I did does not mean I'm in my pool just floating with money at all. No, it's not that easy. I mean, you can be seen, you can look like things are going well, but but no, she's absolutely wonderful to watch, follow along. You kind of feel with her, and she's able to craft your sympathy and understanding of where she's coming from in her decision making without a lot of dialogue and stuff in the movie. And I think that's a really key element. And I was like, oh, this girl's destined for stardom. And she has a good, consistent working career and does do high profile projects. This is her first lead role in a feature film. She had a bunch of like nameless roles and stuff before that, but dynamite here. Real good. And also like Greta Gerwig, her hair feathers out perfectly.
It does. Like they both look the part. And like what kills me is Greta Gerwig, somebody that acts exactly like that character.
Oh yeah.
But she does it in such a way that is effortless.
Yeah.
Like she really goes in and sells that. And like I think with all of her directing work, people actually forget she's a pretty good actress too.
And writer too. Yeah. Like she's got the whole,
she does a lot of stuff.
Yeah. She's like I had to hear that. I'm like, it wouldn't have been what you think. Like going back now, you'd be like, oh, Greta Gerwig. Oh, but back then she wasn't the prestigious goddess among actors, writers, and directors and indie darling that she was then. Yeah. She had this movie called Hannah Takes the Stairs that she wrote, and I believe Swanberg directed. That was kind of the big breakout for this mumblecore thing. So she's a get here of their group, but she's a nice supporting role, and her death is just shocking. And not because you're like, oh, it's Greta Gerwig. It's the way it's presented, and it's just random and not when you're expecting it to happen at all. You think there'd be a little more torment, a little more obviousness, but no, blam, her head gets blown off, and grotesquely.
Like it's one of those moments that like when you first watch that movie, you're like, because there's just everything's just so quiet.
Yeah.
And that happens. And you're just sitting there like
what? Like, yeah, A.G. Bowen comes through here and he's like, hey, what's going on? You're like, okay, I don't trust. Like, oh, you fucking, oh, jeez,
like every self-preservation instinct within me goes off when I'm watching that movie. Like even still, I'm just sitting there just like, no, don't do it. I know they're gonna do it because it's a horror movie. And that's the thing. Jocelyn Donahue really, really sells that. There's that reluctance there, but just kind of also like oblivious at the same time. And I am it's mesmerizing, really, honestly. And I was just looking to see like what if she was doing anything else with Flanagan, because I liked like she had a little supporting role in Doctor Sleep, and I was like, was she announced for Fall of the House of Usher? She wasn't, but I was like, I would love to see her tagged in on some of the television stuff.
Yeah, I mean, she's worked. I mean, yeah, she's you know, her worked with 3 horror boffos here with Ty West, Flanagan, and of course James Wan in Insidious too. But yeah, they know what's up.
They do.
They know what's up.
She's great. She's great.
So yeah, it's
and like she has one of the like best scenes of the whole movie though, is where she's going through the house exploring and she's got her little Walkman on.
Oh yeah, and dancing and yeah, that's totally awesome.
And that's the thing, it doesn't come off as like awkward or forced. Like it really just comes off as somebody, you know, just vibing through this weird house. And I think about how that could have been a scene that easily failed.
Yeah.
Didn't have.
Right. No, it works. It shows a fun side. Like she can let loose in different ways here. She can burst out crying at the dorms. She can dance through the hall. Yeah. And get through as well. Yeah, she has to carry this movie. She's got great support, but we're following her everywhere. We have to buy into her intrigue, her mystery or suspense, her, you know, we have to go with her, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Yeah, because at this point she's our focus. We gotta go look at that hair with her too.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, she's great. Another person from this group that is in this movie is AJ Bowen. He at this point he'd been in David Bruckner's The Signal and Creepshow 3. After this movie is next year, he has Hatchet 2 and A Horrible Way to Die. And he's fun here. I mean, I think he'd like peak in like You're Next. Like I haven't seen him in a lot afterward, but he was a known horror person, and like he gave a great performance in You're Next. That and he was just kind of AJ Bowen's in this, that's fun. And this was one of his early ones. And
I swear, I know it's weird, but every time somebody mentions Ty West, I think about his cameo in You're Next.
Oh yeah, not the best actor.
I think about that every time, and I'm like, oh damn, he dies in that. Every time I'm like, oh no, yeah.
But yeah, he's fun. These people have a lot of fun together. Making, but like, yeah, they seem like a fun troop. Like, yeah, you feel like, oh yeah, Wingard's down the street shooting something else, and then he's you know, not exactly like that, but
it's like theater actors almost. Like you have like, it's not unlike what Stuart Gordon was doing with like Holmes and Barbara Crampton, and like just, you know, everybody just creates like this close knit like little artist community, and I think it's fabulous, honestly.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, like I used to call, like in the early days of the Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, the fall, like Escape from New York, the John Carpenter players, as I like to call it, like Nancy Keys, well, Loomis back then, Charles Cyphers, Jamie Lee Curtis would join the troupe. Just all the Nick Castle, all those people, Tommy Lee Wallace, that would work together. And where are we going next week? What are we making? Okay, we'll do that. You know, just a kind of fun.
It's so fun too, and like, and there are still people that do that, and I love it because one person might not show up in this one, somebody might show up in the next one, They might not tell you if they're going to show up, and then you're sitting there going, just
Yeah.
pointing.
Yeah, Tom Atkins and Jamie Lee Curtis were never in a Halloween movie together, but they were in The Fog together. That
Yeah.
was a John Carpenter, wait, actually, Jamie Lee Curtis did voice a recording in Halloween 3, but that's not the same.
It's not the same as her being there.
Being there, sharing a bed together in The Fog. But yeah, so that's fun stuff. I also want to point out one of the production designers on this, Jamie, is Chris Trujillo, or Trujillo, or what, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the man's name correctly. I apologize. He's a production designer, but you know what he went on to work on?
That name sounds really familiar.
Stranger Things.
Yes.
So obviously the Stranger Things people had an eye for this. But this movie, like, now we get this stuff all the time. We get these retro movies and stuff. There was nothing like this one, like an 80s one. There was nothing like doing what Ty West was doing here at the time. And now we get everything. We're overloaded with 80s stuff now.
Yeah.
And
like, you could put Finn Wolfhard in there and he would fit. It would work. You could superimpose him in the background of one.
Yeah. And, also, like, there was another movie that came out a year after this or 2 years after this that came highly touted that if you liked House of the Devil, you got to check out this one. And it was called The Sleeper. Did you see that one?
I don't think I've seen that one.
And they were like, they did it. Oh, it's just like an 80s throwback.
No.
Everybody looked modern in it. They didn't feel right. Like, they tried to do and they did the whole, probably like a filter type thing, transparency over it. And I was just bored, and it didn't pace like an 80s movie.
Like, when you watch a movie that's like set in like the 1800s, and you look at somebody and you're like, I know you've seen a cell phone.
Yeah. Like,
you don't look like the part. Yeah.
Just because the movie came up with a title card that said 1980 something, you got to do more than that. And I hate to bash that people's hard work on production, but it's just going to show the talent of Ty West, and that not everybody can do it. Not everybody can do what Stranger Things does, even. And that's a more commercial product with money behind it, and overloading on the, like, more that one's more in the tune of all the 80s happened in a week type thing. But this here, like, he shot 16 millimeter film, that helps a lot. And then he also promotionally, they released it on VHS in the initial push, in a clamshell old case, and it was the first VHS produced since History of Violence, which was the final VHS in 2005.
That
and
is cool.
Now we get you can buy stuff on VHS all you want now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this movie plays perfectly on VHS. I hope he cut it to a 4:3 pan and scan version of it. Yeah. And yeah, it's just, this movie just works so well. Like, I'm still going back to it for this. I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. I try to watch it regularly because I really like this one. Really, like, I don't know what it was. So, like, 2005 to this movie, I was maybe down on horror. I don't know if horror was in a bad place or anything, but this movie and James Wan's Insidious really kicked me back into super passionate about horror instead of checklisting my horror stuff, because I've always been a horror guy, but for some reason there's this period where it was just all these like remakes. And
yes, and then there were all like the Japanese like the
remakes, those, and then
of Japanese films.
I dug Saw every year. I don't care. I wanted them to get to like Saw. I get up there in the numbers with the Saw. Just because I love the ridiculous attention to detail and the continuity and stuff in the Saw movies. I think it's fun. Yeah. But there's the found footage was starting to go it was a thing, and
it was.
But
that time period is just a weird, because I think about that time period a lot too, and what it meant for horror because I did a lot of growing up in that period
Yeah.
too. And my mother, of course, she excuse me, I'm gonna yawn now.
Mhm.
She has just was always constantly watching horror, and there were quite a few good entries, and then there were a lot of forgettable ones
Right.
too. And it didn't feel like anyone at that time was doing much with the independent scene either.
Right. Yep. That's true. That's where you get your creativity. And I don't know where it was. I want to say because I grew up when I was first getting into horror was in that famously known dead period in the 90s between 1991 and Scream in 96. So, but I didn't know it. I was digging in. I was seeing the new stuff, which it was cool. I was seeing new stuff in the theater. Like I loved Wes Craven's New Nightmare. There's Candyman came out. There was all sorts of stuff. The slashers were kind of going downhill at the time, but I was finding stuff. I was just taking whatever. There's a really good suspense movie throughout horror that came out in that period called Mute Witness, which becomes harder and harder to find. Really great thing to seek out. Maybe I'll do an episode sometime. It's Alec Guinness's last movie, and he had no idea he was in it. Funny story. But I didn't know. So maybe for someone that 2000, that period there, where I'm just kind of like numb to things. This one and Insidious excited me, and I was like, okay. And I went and checked there during this period. Raimi's Drag Me to Hell came out, and I love that one. So, or within this area, so these movies restored me a bit and got me to where. And we've been in last 10 or so years have been just a great output.
A big boom. And like it's not only just the mainstream stuff, the indie stuff has been just
there's been some good indie stuff,
absolutely stellar. Like God, the ingenuity that we're seeing from independent horror is mind-blowing.
Because people trust that. It's funny, like people and I was talking the other day, I'm like, horror is the only genre you can go where you can get like everything. You can get your nostalgia drip, you can get your franchise picture, you can get your experiments. Like people will back experiment because there's always going to be a good return because you don't spend as much money and you can let people explore stuff. And so it's always,
I think it's so fun to watch people's trajectories of them going from like low budgets and like stuff that is amazing, and you're like, if they get a little bit more of a budget, they're just gonna blow the lid off things. And it's so fun to watch people take that journey in their careers. So,
and I was always so Ty West, someone who I wanted, give him more budget or whatever, he went on to, he did a Cabin Fever sequel, which he doesn't want to talk about. It's not a bad experience for him, but whenever it comes up, like who's going to make a new Nightmare on Elm Street, who's going to make a new Friday the 13th, I'm like, can we get like Ty West and have him like House of the Devil, one of those, like, and give him like no money to make like an old school Friday the 13th. That'd be fun. Why don't we do that? I think people would love it. We're a nostalgia drip place right now. Like, can we do that? Ty West? Or Wingard. Let Wingard can do it too.
And so many of like the good horror films here lately have been ones that haven't had like exorbitant budget.
No, people love A24, and those movies don't cost anything. Those movies might cost on a cast sometimes when they have like a Hereditary, but that's about
you have a Tony Collette budget, and that's it.
Yep. Yeah, it's what it is, and I love that.
You want a headless child, you're gonna have to go make one.
Right?
Take that as you will.
Exactly. I will say, so with this movie, I knew early on I'm gonna get my nostalgia pieces here. And I was completely invested right when the title card hit, because it's Jocelyn Donahue walking, and it pauses. It's yellow lettering, and with the copyright info, nobody was doing. People hadn't done that since like the early '80s or anything. Like that went away. And does it have the quotations on it too? I think it does.
I think it does.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I'm like,
it does.
oh wow, this is great. And then watching that,
And it's
and
like
then
starring.
and when they do the end title cards, and it's paused on her in the hospital with that score, and it's just going. That is genuinely disturbing.
That
Like
oh my
really creepy, because the last thing you heard was that she's pregnant, and she shoots herself in the head and survives, and is pregnant with some Satan baby in the hospital.
You can't think of a worse situation, because honestly, when Emily watched it, she's like, "How did she survive that?" And I was like, because
Satan.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what I can say.
That gross writer part of me that knows this. If you put the gun to your head like she did, it's easier to botch it, and you can survive, unfortunately. For her in that situation like that, if there was a time where you wanted to take yourself out for the good of mankind, I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that ending just gives me just this big ick.
It's a great it's the great payoff for
so quiet.
Also quiet, building up, and then it's such a heck of a payoff. Like you haven't been given a lot in the action realm, but it's worth it to get, the suspense gets to it, and then it has a nice little beat of action and gore to throw off, and then just the creepiest ending. Like it's
like, oh, you're gonna be okay, and then both of you, and you're just like, oh no.
And then my last part of nostalgia is the pizza place that they go to in there.
Yes,
because it has the wood panels and the seats and the pizza itself. Like I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is I know what it smells like in there. And there's some people smoking in the background too. That's great. And they actually put up the wood panels for that. They didn't just like luck out and find someplace, but they really got one of my favorite aesthetics in movies, especially 80s horror movies, is the college town aesthetic. I don't know what it is. Like, I want to live it. Maybe I wanted to go to college then or something, but like the little college town, it's always got a cold sky to it. You can see some telephone lines out, and it works for me. So like, happy birthday to me. Love watching him walk around the college. And it's one thing I like about like Scream 2, to bring it even later, is like that college campus is just old and really cool to look at too. And I like where you can have the college town, the campus, and get that college life. Like I feel like I know where they're at in this movie, and it's Connecticut. I've never been to Connecticut, but I just know the feel of where they're living, because it reminds me of college town when no one's there or whatever, because we don't really see any like extra people just walking around the streets, and that can happen when it's summer or winter break or something like that. That can happen.
We see that around, like, because I live in a college town now, and we have 2 colleges and a community college. And we have several other like small like offshoots of other universities here. So it all looks very familiar to everyone.
It's just something that happens with it that it works, but
it does work.
But House of the Devil, ungodly low budget with high end thrills and just the most impressive design.
Do we have a number on how much that costs to make off top? Like, right?
It couldn't have been like, I know they got their costumes and a lot of the props. I know a lot of their props and costumes came from eBay. They just won auctions and stuff on there. But the House of the Devil, the budget for it looks reportedly was $900,000.
Oh yeah, that's not a lot for what they were doing either.
No, it only made back $101,215, but I don't think it ever got a wide release. It was mainly it was limited theatrical release in October 30th, 2009. So only played then, and then it went straight to DVD and Blu-ray, which is not probably figured into that. But so with DVD and Blu-ray, they had to have made their money back easily. That
Oh yeah, that's definitely usually I think where independent films do make their money is like
Well,
rental.
and that's where like that recent thing Matt Damon did where he interviewed where he talked about the challenges of film now with streaming that doesn't make filmmakers or anybody any money, is that he used to be able to get something like movies he liked greenlit because they factored in DVD and Blu-ray sales after and rentals and TV stuff. And they were like, well, I don't know if that movie will make that at the box office, but when it comes to home video, we'll make it back there. And that was always factored in. That is not the case now. And it's a shame because we're not seeing a lot of the kind of movies we want to see. They say we want to see in the theater. People just don't. They say they want to, and then we see the bottom, and then all you want to go see is superhero movies. But luckily, they want to go see horror movies.
Yeah.
Those make money. Those make appropriate money. It's not like they're like setting the world on fire, but keep your budgets down.
You're making your budget back. You're making your budget back. So yeah, like we're seeing some neat stuff though too.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Before we haven't talked about, and before we move on from it, I want to talk about the 3 veteran people in here. The cameo from Dee Wallace at the beginning, Tom Noonan and Mary Warnov. Thoughts on them in the movie, because we really haven't talked much about them in their big factor.
I'm always happy to see Dee Wallace forever and ever because my mom loves E.T. I grew up watching E.T. with my mother.
I stand by. She should have been at least nominated for an Oscar for that movie. It's one of the best most genuine parental performances ever.
She is like, it's always so good to see her. It's like a warm hug. I can't explain it any other way. Like that's the same way I feel every time I see Henry Thomas too. It's just pure joy.
Right.
And then Mary Warnov, you watch something and then she just pops up. And she always gives like this insane performance.
This woman is always game for anything you throw at her. And
she's the weirder the better kind of person.
Right.
Yeah, there she is just taking her wig off and then getting stabbed by Jocelyn Donahue. It's like, yeah, all in a day's work for her. Like she's always popping up somewhere. Always. Constantly.
Yeah, but that is a perfect Mary Warnov description. Tom Noonan here, like it's like either you're really just this cute, nice old man, or you are going to like slit my throat and eat me. Like like it's so one way or the other, and I can't tell which, but I don't want to be rude. Like it's
like you're either you are literally either a really harmless old man or you are Satan, and there is no in between.
He's got a cadence that's just like it's so he's so good.
Really off-putting.
Yeah, you just get the sense that something's off, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Like it's.
And they both are so off-putting. Like I was thinking about that scene where Jocelyn Donahue expects her to come out from one part of the house and then she comes out from the other.
Yeah.
And then she's just like, no, I was just startled because I didn't expect you to come out from there.
Right. Oh, 100%. It's so creepy. Love it though. But yeah, so that's our veteran like Dee Wallace only shot for a day. She only shows up at the beginning for the first scene, but it's a nice way to kick off and kind of nod that it's gonna be an 80s movie here.
Plus you kind of need the strength of Dee Wallace to get through the rest of this movie.
Right.
Because you're just gonna by the end of it, you're just gonna be like internally.
She's like, hey, young lady, you remember what I went through in The Hills Have Eyes? Well, guess what's going to happen to you?
Yeah. God.
But yeah, so that's House of the Devil. It's it's a super high recommend for me, always around this time of year. Turn the lights on low. be by yourself, keep the house quiet. I don't know. Truly, this is one of the charms of horror as a whole to me, for the genre. And definitely, I need to show it to my son. He's very into horror right now. We go through things. And I'm like, should show it to him.
Yes.
He might dig it.
Make him terrified.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna leave you down here in the basement with the lights off. You're gonna watch this movie. I'll be back.
Bye, son. It's
Bye.
like Dad of the Year.
Dad of the year. All right. So we will move on to our What Else segment. This is just where we talk about something else we may have put out in the world, taken in, or plug something. I don't know. So Jamie, what else?
Well, I think I said this before the show, that I thought it was really funny that you picked The House of the Devil, because I literally just submitted a piece on Larry Fessenden's 1991 feature debut, No Telling, and Larry Fessenden was a producer on mentored Ty West.
Yeah.
So, and he, like you were talking about, like in the, like from 90 to 95, that being kind of a dead period.
Yeah.
Like, he was always doing something weird.
He was one of the more interesting presences of that time, for sure. Yeah.
And like, I'm like, of course, I'm over here writing about this obscure, disturbing Larry Fessenden movie, and you come to me. It's like, you want to talk about The House of the Devil? It's like, yeah, of course. I'm always game, because I love stuff that's made for like $3 and lots of ambition.
Right. Yeah, for sure. That definitely. So I same. Hard same. So my what else I'm going to bring up, popular talking point right now as we're recording, and probably still the next week maybe, is Rob Zombie's The Munsters. Have you watched this one yet?
I have not watched it yet, but
all right.
I was thinking about people talking about the colors and not liking the colors. And I said something in passing to Emily about that, and I said it looks like he was gonna shoot it in black and white, like just the way that the
no, he 100% wanted to shoot.
He wanted, and then she found out, she like, Jamie, turns out they did want to shoot it in black and white, and I was like, it looks like they wanted to shoot it in black. Like everything kind of looks like it would contrast really beautifully.
Right. I like the colors. I got to see this movie. I got the Blu-ray before, like a week and a half before. So I had to keep my mouth shut about it because they embargoed me, and I don't get embargoed.
That's
for
always
a Blu-ray ever.
That's always the fun part, is when you watch the dang thing and then you're sitting there in limbo under this embargo forever, and you're just like, I want to talk about the thing.
Well, yeah, like I'm just like, because I saw it. I won't bury my, so I gave it 2 out of 5, and it was a very kind 2 out of 5. I couldn't just quite, I don't think it's funny enough. It didn't get me to like a 2.5 or anything like that, to be like an average movie. But I watched it and I immediately knew, I'm like, people are gonna hate this movie. Just, I don't think it's near as bad as people are gonna want to hate it. I think they're not gonna understand what he's going for, because he's very channeling what the show is. The colors are lovely. I love looking at the colors. It's kind of got an interesting thing. It looked a lot better visually than that trailer we got. So I'm like, okay, something was up with, but everybody probably watched the trailer on their phone, and I'm watching it on a bigger TV. and I'm like, okay, this works. There was a joke early on in the movie that I actually legit cracked up at. I was like, oh, well, maybe he might do better. And that was the most I laughed. But it's really, the thing is though, like, it's really charming, constantly gleeful, and like everybody's really honing in on this Munsters stuff. But I don't think people are gonna watch this. I don't think people watching this probably watch the Munsters or watched it in a long time that are gonna hate this and not get that. That's kind of what it was. But I just think zombie stuff's not funny enough, and it's really bizarre because there's a lot of like pop culture jokes and references, but they're all it's not like he's using, and they're dated. It's not like he's using uh stuff from the 60s to make it relevant. It's like 90s old, like it's like telling it's almost like telling OJ jokes. It's not I don't think there's an OJ joke in this, but it's almost like that. And I'm like, what? This is kind of has Rob Zombie been in society for like the last 30 years? Like, what is this?
You're expecting the white Bronco joke, and
Yeah.
you get it.
And you're like, why are we doing this? Like, but
I mean, it makes sense for Rob Zombie to be the one that gives us the Monsters movie.
Right. Yeah, no, he's a huge fan. He's a huge fan. One of the things, like I told people when he got the job, I'm like, dude, Shout Factory released Monster Go Home on Blu-ray, and the commentary with my friend Justin Beam and Butch Patrick and Rob Zombie is one of the best commentaries I've ever heard. And you will see Rob Zombie just nerd out. And he talks about how he was on tour, and the town they came to, or like an hour over, there's a convention, and Butch Patrick was there at this horror convention, and he drove over in the 90s to go like meet Butch Patrick, and he knows his stuff up and down. But I'm like, he's not, and I told him, I'm like, he's not gonna make some R-rated Monsters movie. It's gonna be PG. It's gonna be kid friendly.
Yeah.
Which he focuses on it being as family friendly as possible. And I think, and my son watched it with me, and he's like, this is, because I told him, I'm like, a lot of people are saying it's bad or whatever. He's like, no, this is fine. He's kind of enjoying it a lot more. And I have a feeling, I'm like, this is on Netflix. Kids can access it. 15 years from now, we're gonna get those articles like the Munsters was good actually articles, because I think there's gonna be, if kids access it, it's this weird thing with these zany personalities.
Maybe.
And this might, while we're adults and not paying attention to what kids watch, that like your Hocus Pocus that people didn't like back then, but then all of a sudden it's this heralded classic now that was derided upon release. That could be happening with the Munsters right now in a modern age.
I wonder if that's his end game, honestly.
It could be.
Because maybe he was wanting to create the next generation of Munsters fans.
Maybe. I don't know. It's really, it's a prequel to like the series. So
might push some people towards the old stuff, because I watched quite a bit of that when I was there.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's not good, but it's not a time you're gonna, I don't think, hate, unless you're going in wanting to hate, or if you're not getting it. But I really think he's trying, and it just misses it in the humor department. I don't mind Sherry Moon. I know a lot of people hate her. I enjoy her. And I think some of the side characters, Richard Brake is terrific in this movie. He's like almost like you've never seen him in parts. Sylvester McCoy is good in there. I like seeing Cassandra Peterson, though she's just kind of got like some of his worst directing comes from directing her. But there's some fun people, and the people, Sherry and Jeff Daniel Phillips and Daniel Roebuck, they all get little cameos as these other characters throughout the movie too, which is kind of fun. But it's definitely a COVID movie. There's not a lot of people. There's small sets, but he shoots it. It's a very claustrophobic, but he shoots it huge. It's a really weird kind of experience, but he's got some stylistic choices I really like too. Like there's these weird where people have these feelings, but they'll have this neon spinning light sign in the background. I think it's kind of fun, but I think a lot of people are like, this is fucking cheap. It's like, no, that's what things did back then. But I think there's just a disconnect from knowing what old televisions. I think people know pictures of the Munsters. They've seen a clip of the Munsters, but they've never really watched the Munsters.
Watched it, yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, I while I'm singing praises, I'm only singing praises because you're going to hear that it's like the worst movie ever made, and it's not even close. It's almost a solid movie. Like that's my
almost, yeah.
And that's not backhanded. I really appreciate what he's doing, but I think he needs that like hack 10 to 15 minutes off of it, and it could have been funnier.
Rob Zombie, one thing that because a lot of his stuff does not gel for me, but
Mhm.
I do admire that he commits.
He's got a voice. He's got a
Yes.
vision, and he does not
He commits to
back
it.
down for no. People have been telling him to quit writing his movies for 2 decades now, and he's screw you.
He said no. He's not. He's not. But honestly, like he probably like. Was there anyone else that could have made a Monsters movie since he is so just
Yeah.
deeply
I mean,
obsessed with it? Like
some-
that would have known it inside and out.
right. Yeah, like the big
Yeah.
fan doing it. No, he's
Yeah.
about the best you could get that's making
Yeah.
films nowadays. So I think people could like easily Tim Burton could have made a Monsters movie.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, it was interesting to see him try his hand at something way different tonally than we're used to seeing with him.
Because it's family. It's hard to think of Rob Zombie as family friendly, but I'm not
Mhm.
opposed to that because
No, it's worked for Eli Roth. He did one of his best films is A House with a Clock in Its Walls.
yeah.
And no shame in that.
I would personally like to see Rob Zombie tackle gothic horror because I
Mhm.
think he has a sense of excess and melodrama that
Yeah.
would really lend itself to that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Very true.
Yeah, I think that like I think he could really commit to one that's like in the 60s, like Italian gothic horror style. And I
Mhm.
think that that would be a sweet spot for him that I would finally jive with because it's like I have wanted to connect to his stuff, but I just doesn't work.
So
for me.
you'd want to see like Rob Zombie's Crimson Peak or
I would
something like
like
that,
to
or Rebecca.
I would like to see Rob's. Hey, after the debacle with the newest Rebecca, I would watch Rob Zombie's Rebecca. I
There you
mean,
go.
I would watch Rob Zombie's Crimson Peak,
Yeah.
and like that's one thing that's like, you know what? I would be interested in seeing that. I would like to see what he could pull off because I think he's got the sensibilities for it.
Yeah, I think I know 2 of his dream projects. He's got a police drama that he's always talked about and a Groucho Marx biopic.
Which is
Those are
again
his.
so disparate with the rest of his
I'm pretty
his,
sure if he were to get greenlit
Yeah.
tomorrow, the Groucho, Jeff Daniel Phillips would play Groucho Marx for him. I 100% bet that would be his Groucho Marx. I can just easily see that right away. Maybe Sherry could play Harpo.
it's always interesting. It's like, where is Sherry going to be in this?
Mhm. And I don't mind that they are a partnership. They're a team. They were their husband. Like, F you when people get so mad about that. Like,
It seems like he really respects her creatively too.
oh
and
yeah, they have a great
her
relationship.
opinion. And like I don't understand why people get so up in arms because because I'm big in the Flanagan stuff. You see that a lot with Mike and Kate, and
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, they're married, but I'm like, their creative partnership is solid too. And I'm like, why are you gonna mess with something that's, in my opinion, damn near perfect?
Mm-hmm.
Because she is a phenomenal actress.
Yep.
And she co-wrote Hush with him.
Yeah.
So I would love to see them write together one more time. That's on my.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
I need it. I need it
It'll
because
happen.
Hush was like lightning in a bottle for me.
Yeah.
So I don't get that because that's the thing. I joked that I said I'm looking for my Kate Siegel. I want somebody to direct.
There you go.
I want somebody to be like, hey, here's the screenplay. Do you want to play this person?
There you go. If you're out there, I can give you Jamie's contact info if you would like.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. I'm very loud 99%
There
of the time.
90% of the time. And you've been wonderfully loud here too. So that'll wrap us up for this first episode of year 3. I guess I'm still doing this thing now. Still having fun. But Jamie, thank you for so much for coming back. So
thank
easy to work
you.
with, easy to talk about. Before we sign out, just let people know where they can keep up with all your happenings.
You can find me. I have a website now. It's jamiealvey.com. You can find me there. You can find me on Twitter at Jamie A. Wrights. You can find me on Instagram at Jamie Alvey. And yeah, I'm always around doing something, having some kind of emotional stress breakdown, because work, day jobs are stressful when you're trying to be a writer also. So, it's fun. It's fun. We talk a lot about, the ins and outs of writing and being so doggone tired that you can't write and you're mad about it. So that's just kind of my thing now.
JamieAlvey.com. You can go there and see that. Awesome. All right. And I am on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD. My written work is at Why So Blue, which it's October. And it's always a busy month for me with my Blu-ray reviews, where I have way more than I have time for. So you can go over there and dive into it. Lots of great new horror releases, classic-wise upgrades, all sorts of things. I just finished a Return of the Living Dead 4K review. It looks better than ever. And I've got a Paranormal Activity box set. All sorts of fun stuff coming your way. Also, remember to listen to the Out Now with Aaron and Abe horror specials, where I'm guesting and putting together, I believe on this Friday, when this releases, should be our Monster Squad episode. If I'm back a week, then it's the Hero Squad one, but I think that one's dropped the Friday before this episode, so it's all confusing. But Out Now with Aaron and Abe. And tune in next week here as Jessica Alsman returns, as well as Greg Magoon returns, and we're discussing the I Know What You Did Last Summer trilogy, which the first film turned 25 this year. You'll want to listen to that, because I have a great anecdote about my first date and that movie that you'll want to hear. So be there for that. But till then, stay film positive.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.